Welcome to the Hotel Tech Podcast. This is the show where we tackle your most pressing issues to bring your business more wins. Keeping up with technology is challenging. Our experts are here to help you figure it all out. Here's your hosts, Glenn Houseman and Stella Hale.
Hey everybody, welcome back to the Hotel Tech Podcast. I am your host, Glenn Houseman. I'm excited to be here today. And of course, it wouldn't be the Hotel Tech Podcast, at least not in spirit, if I didn't have my incredible, wonderful co-host, Mrs. Stella Hale, just happens to be the Chief Product Evangelist with SHR. And of course, that stands for Scepter Hospitality Resources. And she is one of the best people that I know in hospitality today. Stella, you ready to bring shame into my life by showing everyone how much smarter you are than me today?
Well, I don't know about that, but I certainly am ready to tackle the new podcast today, and it is such a relevant and exciting topic that I am very excited about it.
Yeah, I'm excited about it too, although I'm not excited for the reason why we're having this particular podcast, and that's because things are starting to get a little soft out there, everybody. I think we've all been enjoying the sugar rush of so many years of increasing RevPAR, and now in the last couple of months, that seems to be going away. All right, so there are certain pockets that are doing terrific. There are certain pockets that aren't doing as well. But the fact of the matter is, it's no longer a case of being able to just sit back and do nothing. You're going to have some sort of different strategies. You're going to need to think about how you can play to win, right, in all economic times, right?
Absolutely. Just there's no just sitting back and waiting for just the market to bring business anymore. In every aspect of our industry, we need to be out there and be spending time on quality leads. So I think that's why today's podcast is so relevant.
It really is, and I think you just created the perfect bridge for us to bring in the CEO of Knowland, Mr. Bob Host. And how are you today, sir?
I'm doing great, Glenn. And nice to hear you guys' voices. And hello, Stella.
Hi, Bob. Thank you so much for joining us today.
All right. So
absolutely.
I'm really interested to see, how are you thinking about things these days? I got to tell you, man, I'm on the road an awful lot. I'm out there month after month. I'm talking to hoteliers, and at the cocktail parties, the conversation seems to be turning from congratulating each other to starting to have concern about how to keep adding more money to the bottom line, because it's getting a little rough out there. How do you see the market today?
Well, I think it's probably a tale of two cities, Glenn. I would think that you would like to believe that hotels haven't been sitting back waiting for business to fall in their lap the last 8-9 years, but it's been a nice market. So if you haven't been in the industry prior to that, then this probably seems a little tougher going than for those that have been in it. But I think the reality of this is it's flattening, and no one really has a great sense of where it's going to be. But it just means that the good news is you've got time. You've got some time to actually get your shop in order, and hopefully we can dive into a few of the things that at least no one from a group perspective believes the industry should have been doing in the past, but definitely needs to focus on in 2020.
Yeah, absolutely. And I will tell you, one of the bright spots for a lot of places has been that group business, but that dynamic isn't necessarily the same as much anymore. And Bob, I got to tell you, you said a lot of really interesting things all in there that about it being a tale of two cities in a lot of ways. And I do feel like there's a lot of folks at the property level that you pointed out that haven't been in the industry that long. They have no idea what an adverse market condition in the hotel business is. So they really need to, I think, have some more tools at their disposal in order to be able to find success as things kind of change and brings them all into unfamiliar territory.
No, I think that's right. We've got Knowland's working with about 3,500 unique hotels around the world, and based on the tenure of the GM and the director of sales and the rev manager, they may see this in very different lights. So, we kind of see our goal as much as providing great information and advanced search tools. We're also trying to provide practical advice, as we've got quite a number of years of hospitality here in the company, and I probably account for a lot of them.
Bob, do you think that the way that hotels have approached groups in the past few years has changed into a dependency of data, such as RFPs, and that the quality of those, it's kind of training new people that are coming into those roles into maybe not approaching it the best way?
I would say, yeah, I think we have to look at the reality here. Similar to when transient inventory kind of went away because of the advent of the OTAs. We have the same thing that's occurred over the last 8 to 10 years, through our friends over there at Cvent. And let's give them credit. They've built a market, but if you filled your hotel with group business in the past by relying on inbound RFPs, that's okay when the tide's really high, because you can fill all the different need periods. But that we're starting to see that's not the case. And so it means you've got to be proactive. If you don't really have control of your own ship in terms of need periods and how you're out there in the market and cultivating business to fit in the time frame, this may not be a pleasant scenario for you, even if the business environment just remains flat. You're still going to underperform versus your competition. You would like to believe most hoteliers understand that, and if they don't, hopefully, things like your guys' podcast will help educate them.
Yeah, and I certainly do hope we are educating people out there, because, we got to get rid of that reactive time. And I think that is a good lesson for life in general, right? You want to be proactive and not reactive. It really lowers the stress. It makes your quality of life better. Plus, I think it puts you in an advantageous position to really take the time to understand different companies and how to partner with them to win that business.
And I think that's one of the purposes of this, is to really bring the teams of the audience and the hoteliers out there to understand the different options that they have of approaching this. And you cannot just train someone to use a tool, again, Cvent or whatever our RFP it is, and consider that your strategy, right? There's much more to having the strategy for selling groups.
Absolutely, Stella. And I think you make the right point, which is you should never be sole sourced to one approach, one channel. That makes no sense. No revenue manager in the world would allow you to manage your hotel that way on other categories. So why would you do such a thing? As we talk to asset managers or individual hotels, we kind of use the pyramid example. Look, you've got different layers, just like in the past, you used to build your hotel volume up and you'd look at airline crews as the base, and then you'd start to add in other pieces. You need to view this as you do the same way from a channel. Things like inbound RFPs, yeah, absolutely. They'll always have a place. You should do that. Take advantage of that marketing budget that they have. But you need to be cultivating your own business. And the thing that again, for those of us who've been around, it seems so intuitive, but I think you've got a number of people in the industry that this is like maybe an insight they didn't have before, is that, the repeat business that you get from a group is what you're really after. It's not just the event, it's the return. You want to build that relationship. You want to build a value prop that's based on more than just price. You don't want that kind of return business where every year they come back looking for 10% less. You want that kind of, you want to build that base. And when you proactive sell it, and we've certainly done our surveys across our own account base, that's about 7 to 8 times more likely to happen with proactive selling than it's ever going to be through other channels.
Well, Go
Yeah,
for it,
I
Stella.
think that's a key term. I think that's proactive is a key term, and it is a term that allows the team to be selective versus reactive and just waiting to be selected. That is almost like giving control of your strategy versus taking control of your strategy.
I agree with you.
Okay, so I would like to throw in here. All right, this is going to freak people out on what I'm about to say here, but I actually did a little preparing before this particular podcast, and in some of the conversation we had, we were talking about the commoditization of group space, and I had never actually really thought about that commoditization before. I see it every day. I see it in the hotels, and I always comment about how hotels are all trying to do something very differently, but they've all gone very differently in a lot of ways in the same direction. And now that you put out that idea that this is happening in the group space, I realize that a lot of the hotels that I go to could be in any city, anywhere. The conference experience is essentially the same. So you talk about trying to break free from that trap of creating a commoditized product. How does that work? Is it the stuff that you're actually offering, Bob, or is it maybe a particular type of relationship that the meeting planner can have with folks on site? How do you see people breaking those chains of commoditization?
No, great question, Glenn. I think, there's a couple avenues to it. There's obviously, if the only thing you ever compete on is price, then you're training your customer to buy from you that way, which you don't want to do. And it's a shame because although you travel a tremendous amount, yes, your group experiences are probably very common in some elements, but I'm sure that even in your travels, you come across a group sometime at a particular hotel that, there are just even the small things that just resonate, whether it's the level of service or the customization. And you look at a lot of the different solutions that hotels use, I think this all really comes back to leadership around the property. And you want your group team to be thinking about that. Yes, everyone can provide me food and beverage, conference, AV, all of that. But, look at some of the new areas that I think hotels maybe realize, or maybe they don't, that they are now competing with. There are other event spaces that can host these groups. And some of the things that they're able to do around AV and visualization are amazing. Now, those might be capital investments for the hotel, but there is always the ability for you as a hotel to craft your own unique story around what you do. So the more that you bring that personality into it, you're going to make people want to do business with you. And you find that right clientele, your loyalty levels are going to be tremendously higher. Some of that's common sense. A lot of that's been proven by the stats.
Yeah, I completely agree with you. It makes a lot of sense what you're saying, and I like that you're framing it in those very specific ways. I think that makes it very clear for the listeners to really understand this. I think a lot of times we think about the hotel in those terms, but we don't boil it down to the group part of the business that we're thinking about in the hotel. So thanks for pointing that out. So what about if you're seeing that you've got a gap in business in the short term and you need to fill some space? Is there any thoughts on how you might be able to do a quick fix as opposed to planning right now for 2022?
Yeah, well, that is always the challenge. I don't want this to be too self-serving, but
you know what? You made a lot of great statements. If you need to be a little bit self-serving, I think we could give permission. I'm going to issue a waiver. So I'm stamping it. Go ahead.
Thank you. That is very kind of both of you. Yes, it is not uncommon at Knowland that we get hotels calling in a relative sense of panic of, I have to fill a need period. The need period may be as short. We've had them as short as 3 weeks out. How do you possibly do that? One of the great advantages of the Knowland database is that we can point you in the right direction without you burning a lot of wasted time trying to prospect on something. As we brought our latest our latest technology of Elasticsearch, or what we call Smart Search. We are able to search on about 25 to 30 unique criteria for your hotel, including need period, the size of what you have available, what you're trying to fill by revenue, and we're able to serve you up opportunities that are in your market, which most hotels kind of get that anyway, but more importantly, it's that kind of group that may in fact be out there based on history, based on profile, based on demographics, and able to serve it up that you may be able to actually pull that group from somewhere else. Now that's tough to do on a very, very short burn, but it's not unheard of because sometimes things just change. And that has proven itself to be pretty valuable and saved more than one Doss's career over time.
And I think that is so valuable also for the audience to know that this technology, such as the one that Knowland offers, exists, because I mean, many times just deciphering the amount of information and the quality of the information that hotels get every day, and, you know, again, being accustomed to just responding to RFPs that basically neutralize and make everyone look the same, you know, you have something very innovative. You have something that is data powered. So I think it's very valuable for hoteliers to know that they have this as a resource.
That's so right. You know, when you say data, and I love this, it's another great example of being able to turn data into actionable insight. And that's one of the things that the hotel industry has been so far behind on. And I hate to join in on the love fest for what you're doing over there, because I'm trying to be a little impartial here, but it sounds to me like a really great shortcut for people to be able to be proactive, tap into a information source and get the answers that they need quickly. I know in my life that would be very helpful. For example, if I'm trying to book speaking engagements, I'm in a situation right now where I'm trying to figure out all of the national tourism organizations, but I don't know how to find that. Man, if I could just tap into something to understand a little better insight, that would make my life a lot easier, for example.
Yep. Well, absolutely, Glenn. You call us after this, we'll set you up on a short subscription so you can check that out.
Yeah, awesome. I'm sure it'll be real helpful for me, since I am not, I'm not booking meetings and stuff like that. But at least I'll get to learn everything. So this is really fantastic, what you folks are doing. So how do you see the long-term health of the group market? We know it's been getting soft. It has been getting soft, but it was also the unsung hero of the last downturn. It seemed to have been a thing that came back that was completely unexpected. So what do you think is going to happen if you had to pull out your crystal ball? And don't worry, you can make any prediction now. No one's going to call you on it 5 years from now. So whatever it is, it is.
Well, I agree. Whatever it is, it is. I actually, I think it's within every hotelier and every asset manager's hands to be able to make this a success, or be on the bad side of being the example of what not to do. I think we still have time in this. I think we see a flattening. It's hard for me just macroeconomically to look at this. I don't see this like 2008, where that's a bank-led recession. Right. It doesn't get much worse than that. This is unlikely to be that, but look at it this way. If you take control of this and you are working in relationships, trying to commit people and groups that you know are likely to continue to book, they're not going to pull the plug because the economic downturn probably is not at that level, then you're building customers for hopefully life. Even if you are wrong, and even if the economic trends kind of start to trend back upwards, oh gosh, the worst that's going to happen is that you increased your occupancy and increased your revenues and profit. I think there's a lot worse things in the world than that. So, but my fear, as I think you've heard over the last 20 minutes, is that there are many more than I recall 10 years ago of hotels and asset managers specifically. Asset managers, I don't understand, frankly, why they're not grasping where this danger is and how they can mitigate the danger. They seem to have convinced themselves that they're on the receiving end, and as Stella, you pointed out, that this is just the reactive way that they have to live with this
Right.
as part of their asset. And that makes no sense to me, because we know that's just flat out wrong.
Yeah, let me give a little bit more context to what Bob was saying, because I completely I completely get where you're coming from. I think there has been a systemic change in our society, and forgive me, folks, if you've heard this before, but it's really important to get home. At the last Great Recession, really hurt the travel industry in a big way. It was super painful. I know a lot of people that got hurt at it, but the fundamentals of the way that we live have changed significantly since then. We're no longer very focused on just having this stuff. It's more about experiences these days. Plus, we've seen the rise of having to play soccer teams all the way out of town all the time, and all these sports and cheerleading competitions and all of these things, and family reunions, and just going away for drive-away weekends. These are things that are here now. And even if we do see a little bit of a recession, it's not going to change everything completely. So people are still going to travel. So, Bob, I got to say, you were also making that point about the events that were going to be taking place still. And I agree with you. And I think from what I learned in the last recession was when you go to these conferences at this time of the cycle, everybody is out with the next person in line, and the next person in line, and maybe that new guy that just came around, right? And I think a couple of those junior people start to fall off when the economy starts to come apart a little bit. At least that's how I see the whole thing. Stella, what about you?
I think
no. Sorry, Stella, go ahead.
No, go ahead, Bob.
Yeah, we'd much rather hear from our guest.
I was just going to say, no, I think I think that also brings home, if you had a hotel and you were a group hotel, or you had a significant portion, I mean, frankly, even if you're a mid-market, you're a Holiday Inn Express, and you still got conference rooms and you got space, you want to fill that. I mean, you must have a strategy of how to do this and differentiate yourselves. And that doesn't mean, hundreds of thousands, millions of dollars of capital investment. There are always ways that you're able to differentiate, even as you use the example. Great, even in a Smurf market, right? Mm-hmm. You can differentiate yourself around this to different soccer leagues, different sports leagues. This is all coming down to the creativity of the sales organization that you put in place. But you have to give these people the tools and empower them to be able to do some creative things.
Yes.
And this is the time to be doing that. Once things hit, it's really too late then.
So I think a good question to pose to the audience is, how are you working on successful prospecting? And if you're not, if the answer to that question is I'm responding to RFPs, then ask that question again. How will you work on successful prospecting to the groups that are relevant to the uniqueness, if you will, of your property?
Yeah, great point, Stella. So, Bob, anything else that you feel that you need to get out? I'm feeling like I get the sense we've covered this topic, but how do you see it? Any final thoughts?
Yeah, I mean, certainly things that, no one's always tried to anticipate things ahead of time. We'll be doing things in terms of our technology and search and things with different sales and catering systems, right, that I think will be very valuable. But I mean, on this topic, I guess the final thing I'd like to highlight for your audience is that because we feel so strongly about this, we will be highlighting examples out over the next few months of different types of hotels, different types of sales organizations, what they've done, how they've done it, how it's benefited them, all around that same theme of taking control and being proactive in terms of their sales. So, yes, our tool is a part of that, but a lot of that, as you guys have so eloquently pointed out, is about sales strategy. And I think that is the most important thing. At the end of the day, we want every sales group in every hotel to be successful and have a successful career. And it's well within their ability to do it.
Yeah, absolutely beautiful. Stella, how about you? Any final thoughts from you?
Just being in the distribution side and on the transient side for 19 years now, I think I just have seen the transient side go through the commoditization, and then hotels having to go through this war cry of, book direct, let's regain back the connection to our guest. And I think we can use that experience, and we can say, to our audience and to our hoteliers, we're at a good time now to not let this also happen with the group business.
You are absolutely right. Bob, you want to, how about you get in the last word?
Well, I was just trying to figure out at what age of a child that Stella got in hospitality, if she's got 19 years of experience. But
12
sorry,
or
it
no,
just
11.
it derailed all of my summary thoughts for you, Glenn. Sorry.
Yeah. All right. Awesome. So listen, everybody out there, the group market is changing. It might be getting a little bit tougher out there, but there are more groups than ever traveling today. There are different things than there were just 5 or 10 years ago. So it's really an issue of what you don't know. So you don't know what you don't know, right? So get out there and be proactive. Figure out the pieces of the puzzle to help make sure that you have all the components in place for great, good group business in your hotel. Man, I want to thank you for being here today, Bob. That was such a great conversation. Of course, my amazing co-host, Stella Hale. And I want to thank all of you listeners for listening out there. Without you, we would just be talking to ourselves. So you can find this show's recording and all past shows on SHR's website. Of course, that's shr.global. And of course, on my channel, NoVacancyNews.com. Like us on our feed. Check us out on Facebook. Check us out on LinkedIn, and subscribe wherever you get your podcasts. Or if you want to get our newsletter, text the word hotel to 66866. That's the word hotel to 66866. So for Stella, Bob, and myself, happy group getting that business. Get out there. Make your hotel some money. Guys, see you next time.